Lynn Gerber and I, Lynn is a dear friend of mine. We met not on the dog front, we met in politics, and we got to be fast friends. And then I found out what an incredible heart she has for rescuing animals. And I want to bring Lynn on now and let her tell you a little bit about her story, because it's pretty amazing. And we're going to tell you some pretty amazing things about Colorado and how off the rails it is when it comes to animal rescue and how we can fix things. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Heidi. Go Camp Barrow. We love you.
Oh, thank you. I hanging out with dogs was a really cool way to build a business. I'm not going to lie. And why going from dogs to politics, that was kind of, a crazy transition, but it's helpful in what we're going to talk about now. Lynn, I think our background in politics helps us fight these battles for all these amazing dogs that need help. So I want you to tell folks a little bit about your background and how you got to this point.
Well, I never thought of ever being in politics, but I ran for Senate in 2020 because I was so passionate about these dogs and what happens to our community of animal lovers. So that began my journey in politics and dogs. Currently, I'm the Community Engagement Director for Positive Pathways, and I work in rural Colorado. We're a licensed nonprofit, and we work with homeless, at-risk dogs in underserved areas in Colorado and New Mexico. So that's my heart's work, along with Good Dog, Good Life as a digital creator.
And you are becoming quite the influencer on social media. Your Facebook page, I think you have how many followers? 60,000 followers now?
Yeah, we're going to hit 60 here, and we're just up and running on YouTube. Thank you for your support on that, Heidi.
Sure, and so it's called Good Dogs, Good Life. They're on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. You've got to go check it out, especially if you love dogs. You're going to love what they're doing.
Yeah. It's Good Dog, Good Life on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Yeah, thanks, Heidi.
Great. And I'm going to tweet out about it later and with all the links and post it on Facebook, et cetera. But we have kind of an urgent crisis in Colorado right now, and it's been building for a few years. And we've talked about it, written about it, advocated for policy to stop what's going on. But I gave these tidbits earlier in the show, Lynn, that in 2024 alone, 6,000 animals were euthanized in shelters in Colorado, and Denver now ranks 5th nationally in shelter euthanasia rates. What on earth has happened to create this mess?
Wow. Yes, that is accurate. The numbers just came out. Well, housing, people surrendering animals. And unfortunately, we import so many animals into Colorado with rescues, with names that infer that they're Colorado-based rescues, which they're not. So a lot of reasons. I'm not sure how much you want to go into all that, but 163,000 dogs, and mostly puppies, were imported into Colorado in the last 6 years.
And Lynn, tell me if this is kind of the bare bones way to describe how this happens. We have puppy mills around the country, or there's organizations that'll take in puppies from rescues. They import them into Colorado, and some of these rescues work as nonprofits, but they make a lot of money because they charge like $1,000 adoption fees. They call it retail rescue. And so you think you're adopting a puppy that's been, dumped on the side of the road, and actually it's been very intentional where they bring them here and they can adopt these dogs out for very high fees. Is that an accurate way to describe what's been happening?
Well, I think puppy mills are a separate issue, but what we do have is we have a lot of dogs, mostly from Texas, that come in. They're free. There's no transaction with dollars. They come from shelters. There is great need in our states, and we're a great state for importation. So that is what happens. The rescues, a lot of our large importers are importing, they're getting free dogs, bringing them in for all kinds of different reasons. And it really boils down to dollars. Dogs are dollars. Dogs are commodities. And unfortunately, Colorado has gotten out of hand.
So when you say dogs are dollars, like I described one way that nefarious actors or bad actors make money off of this animal rescue world. What's another way? Like, to give us a couple other examples.
of how they're imported.
Well, no, how people make money off this, like how this, like, it's just amazing to me the amount of money that's in like the rescue space and the shelter space. And a lot of people are making money off of ways they shouldn't be. Like their heart's not in it for the right reasons.
Well, I think to kind of sum it up is that you have many small rescues in Colorado that do amazing work.
Yeah.
But when you have rescues that we have, I don't know, probably 15 plus that bring in, hundreds and hundreds of puppies and dogs that from other states, we really don't know what's coming into our state. And a lot of the dogs, the puppies are picked over. Sometimes the dogs are bundled, and many of the dogs end up in boarding. And we're basically just it becomes a dollar. I don't think some people start out, with good intentions, but I think they see how much money can be made. So we have Dogs Warehouse. We have dogs, that are foo-foo dogs. And what's sad is that we have a lot of rescues that infer you're adopting a dog from a Colorado rescue when in fact you're not.
Yeah, that's been that's what I've written on before in the past, is these retail rescues and how these nonprofits that rescue dogs, quote unquote, they get huge donations and huge investments by good people who think they're doing the right things. And then there's the flip side, which we're going to talk more about after the break, but the political side of it and what's happening in Colorado politically and how we went from being one of the best states for animal rescue and low euthanasia rates to being one of the worst. And a lot of it has to do with legislation or policy. Is that correct, Lynn?
Well, what's happened right now is because Denver is saturated in the cost of living, that because a lot of our rescues, we would like to see them help and support our shelters, our municipal shelters. So what's happening is that municipal shelters and rural areas where we work in, we cannot compete with the puppies and the foo-foo dogs. And so what happens is they get surrendered to the shelter when there's not space, or you have behavioral issues, or you just, there's nothing they can do. A rescue is supposed to support, and we would like to see our Colorado rescues support our shelters and not, it's sad.
Yeah, I think
right now
we've got to take care of our own pups that need homes and kitties, and God bless the other states that need help, but we've got to figure this out in Colorado. So, Lynn, we're going to bring you back after the break to ask a couple more questions about the political side of this. This is Heidi Ganal filling in for Dan Kaplis. We'll be back right after the break. And Kaplis, and I have my friend Lynn Gerber, who's been pretty politically active in Colorado, but also just a warrior for rescue animals across the state and doing wonderful work. And I'm going to share out her information on her organization and how to follow her on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok later online. But Lynn, there's a few things that I think people can do fundamentally to help with this overpopulation problem and our packed shelters and euthanasia problem here in Colorado. One is make sure that your pets are spayed and neutered. Number two, vet, no pun intended, the rescues before you adopt an animal, and make sure they have a good reputation, that they're doing it for the right reasons, there aren't exorbitant fees involved. And then finally, donate and volunteer with the good ones. That leaves out the political side of things. So I want you to explain to people real quickly who oversees our shelters and rescues in Colorado and where there might be some gaps or why we might need to ask our legislators to do more.
Okay. The key is Jared Polis, our governor, made a division of animal welfare. We're the only state in the nation that has a division. And what we would like to see the governor enact is stronger enforcement through his regulatory agency, Bureau of Animal Protection, and PACFA, Pet Animal Care Facility Act. We would love to see the governor be more involved in enforcement of animals that are being abused and rescues that are taking advantage of our consumers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was looking at the numbers. There were 217 PACFA violations over 5 years. 157 were direct, and 167 licensed rescues were cited for PACFA violations in a single year. And that's very telling. And they don't have a big staff at PACFA, so that's a lot of citations for a small team. Is that correct?
Well, when you consider there's close to 3,000 licensees in Colorado, the majority of the complaints come in on the rescues. And the rescues, I caution people, just because people call themselves a rescue does not necessarily mean they're rescues.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things that I've learned from you and that I want our listeners to take away is don't believe just because it says on Facebook or Pet Finder or the flyer that they're a rescue. There are amazing animals at good rescues all over this state and good shelters that are being cared for and waiting for a home. And I'm not saying the ones that are with not good actors are shouldn't be adopted. They should, but we don't want you taken advantage of, and we don't want you kind of keeping the system going, right, and feeding the machine. Is that a good way to say it, Lynn?
Exactly. And I would love to see people write our governor and demand transparency, demand that we protect and our consumers from whistleblowers. The industry is so money motivated, and some of these rescues are making so much money. They are intimidating to our consumers, to fosters, and I would like to see our state, we used to be the leader in the nation, we still are in many respects, but we need to protect PACFA, but PACFA and our government needs to get on the ball. They need to start dealing with the bad actors. And publicly, when I started, the violations and inspection reports were posted. That has to be made available to the public.
And it's not right now?
No.
That's crazy. Like, I don't understand why not. Why wouldn't they?
Because a lot of these people have attorneys, and it's litigation. And unfortunately, PACFA has really stepped it up lately, and they have really taken some people to task. But they have a limited budget, limited resources, and, times are tough. So don't have and appoint an animal division and not enact change. So,
right.
Get going, Jared, on your last year and a half. Get, strengthen. We have an advisory committee, and we would love to see those people more engaged instead of just seat warmers. We would love to see the committee, the advisory committee that advises the Department of Ag advise and become involved.
Yeah, Lynn, I think I applied to be on that committee, but for some reason, Jared didn't put me on the committee. I don't understand.
Oh, no.
I know. Politics comes into play there. Well,
it is very political, Heidi, and people need to know dogs and dollars. Dogs are a commodity, and we have to protect our great, amazing shelters. We have the best municipal shelters, and our small rescues that get hurt by these big players that play big. They have attorneys, and they are threateners, and they're intimidators, and it has to stop.
Well, Lynn, I'm going to do a follow-up to this interview. We're going to post this interview on Rocky Mountain Voice, but I'm also going to do a follow-up article where we're going to detail some places and ways people can find out who those bad actors are and hold them accountable, and ask the governor and his division and his advisory committee to do the same. So I'm with you in this fight. I know there's lots of animal lovers across this state that are in this with you, and we'll get the job done. But thank you for all you do, Lynn. We so appreciate you, and keep up the great work. And I will share your social connections later on social media.
Thank you, Heidi. And can I just ask for one big ask here?
Sure.
We currently are in rural Colorado. Our program works with all rural areas, and we are in desperate need of food. I just posted on our social media, Positive Pathways, and my personal page. We really need food. We are underserved. We are in rural Colorado. We do the toughest work in the state in rural Colorado, and we have an amazing team from Pueblo all the way southeast and southwest. We could sure use some help.
I would love to get the word out about that, Lynn. How can people donate? Do you guys have a website?
We do. Positive Pathways, CO for Colorado.com.
And that's positive, PAWSATIV. Yep. All right.
Yep.
Positivepathways.co. Is that correct?
No, Positive Pathways, Colorado.com.
Got it. All right, great.
Thank you,
I will
Heidi.
post that link later. Thanks, Lynn. I'm going to talk about one quick thing before we go to break, but I appreciate you being on the show, and we'll follow up with a written article as well.
Thank you for your amazing work. We appreciate it. Thank you.